Good. And Canadian cities, 3 Canadian cities rank in the global top 25 for high-tech cities. Toronto has over 60 incubators and accelerators, and in fact, last year, more tech-related jobs were created in Toronto than San Francisco, Seattle, and Washington combined. So a thriving system. We have the fourth largest cybersecurity industry, the 3rd largest gaming industry, fintech, connected car. We've got a growing venture capital industry, including some Indian companies that are now establishing in Canada, and some Canadian VCs that have established here in India, which is very healthy. We also have Canadian pension funds and institutional funds that are investing in India more and more. We also, in Canada, have one of the most generous science and scientific research and experimental development tax credit regimes, providing over $3.1 billion of credits to companies every year. And finally, the 4th point is access to Canada itself. I mean, it is, and I'm biased, but it is a great place to live. 1 in 5 Canadians are foreign-born, including approximately 1.5 million Canadians who trace their origin back to India. And these Indo-Canadians are now contributing to Canada's diverse and multicultural society. So multiculturalism is one of the elements in Canada that we're most proud of. And as our Prime Minister likes to say, we see diversity as a strength and not a weakness. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, we believe that diversity drives innovation. So what have we done recently to try and attract more talent to Canada and to make it easier for talent to come to Canada? One is the Global Skills Strategy, which was launched in 2017. And the goal of the Global Skills Strategy is to allow companies established in Canada to access the global talent they need as quickly as possible. So in as little as 2 weeks, if your company is established in Canada, you can bring high-skilled workers from India, for example. It also makes it easier for family members to enter the country. The second one that we've launched recently is the Startup Visa Program. And the Startup Visa Program is one that we've been promoting fairly heavily in Bangalore, in Hyderabad, because it's a program that allows startups to, or the founders of startups anyway, to move to Canada and get their PR, permanent residence, quite quickly. And again, in keeping with the sort of belief that government should step back and let business do the business, the Startup Visa Program relies on a series of incubators and accelerators and VCs helping to select startups who apply. As part of the project, or part of the program, is that a startup from India or from anywhere in the world has to be part of an accelerator program or accepted into an accelerator program in Canada, or has to have some investment from Canadian sources. So I see my time is just about out, but I just want to touch quickly on an example of innovation in Canada. And we've heard a lot about artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning. These things have been going on in Canada for 3 decades. In fact, 3 of the godfathers of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, Yoshio Bengio, and Richard Sutton, all have started their work and have continued their work in Canada. And incidentally, 2 of those 3 were born outside of Canada and chose to develop their science in Canada. In 1982, the Canadian Institute of Advanced Research was created, and it was designed to work on alternative innovation models, which eventually led to AI. And in 2018, the Canadian Conference on Artificial Intelligence will have did have its, we're into 2019 now, did have its 31st annual conference, indicating that, yeah, we've been talking about AI in Canada and doing AI in Canada for over 3 decades. In 2017, Canada was the first country to release a national AI strategy. It came with a lot of funding, and part of that was also to create 3 AI institutes led by the 3 godfathers previously mentioned in Toronto, Montreal, and Edmonton. And although the initial funding from the government wasn't that much, it has resulted in a massive inflow or helped to lead to a massive inflow of funding, with the result that Montreal has the highest concentration of deep learning students and researchers in the world, and Toronto has the highest concentration of AI startups in the world. And the world is listening. Google, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, Tech Mahindra, Samsung have all opened labs in Canada in the past 2 or 3 years, and other global companies, IBM, Intel, Ford, Adobe, General Electric, and on, are doing their AI work in Canada. Today, over 500 AI companies, largely startups, are in Canada, using the talent and access to global markets that are there. So I see my time is completely up, so I think I will skip the final section, which was to talk a little bit about some of the funding programs that we have available. So also I would say that if you're interested, if you think you would like to collaborate with Canada, or if you think that you would either collaborate from India or perhaps consider growing your company in Canada, please talk to myself, talk to Vikram, reach out to us, or reach out to any of my other colleagues in the network, because if you're looking for a place to grow that embraces diversity, that has positivity and confidence, and will take advantage of some of the changes and the disruption that's coming, we'd like you to consider Canada. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No questions?
I will just get to that questions.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I had this question about Canada has always been seen as an immigration-friendly nation, and always encouraged highly talented individuals to move to Canada. Now I see that the startup ecosystem and the entrepreneur ecosystem. So if you could just, you took us through the visa program. I'm sure people will reach out to you because a lot of entrepreneurs here. But what is that one thing which, from the government side, that the entrepreneurs should be ready with before they really look at setting foot there into Canada?
I don't think there's any one thing. I think what's required is good ideas. I mean, just good ideas, because we need to grow. We need to face the disruptions that were talked about. And as I mentioned, I mean, 1 in 5 people in STEM, science, technology, were born abroad, and those people are bringing great ideas to fruition in Canada, and that's all we're looking for.
Awesome. That's good. Excellent.
Anything
We
else?
have time for one question. Anybody? Yeah, can we pass the mic there quickly?
Innovative direction, what's happening in Canada, and like how well we can get into a collaborative manner, and it will help us in driving our startups as well from India. I have a quick question on AI. How do you see the AI healthcare startups emerging in Canada, and how well a startup from India can collaborate in this manner? Thank you.
Did you say healthcare? AI in healthcare?
Yeah.
His question was, how do you see AI in healthcare, that impact in Canada?
Yeah. I've got to admit, I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I'm a government functionary rather than an expert in AI. But we had a physician who started an incubator. She's an amazing woman, actually. She's probably 30, head and neck surgeon, MBA from Harvard, did her medical school at Yale, all this sort of stuff. But she has created an incubator in Canada that is one of the first healthcare incubators that is actually located physically in a hospital. And some of the work that they're doing there is related to AI. whether that would fit in with what you're interested in, I mean, I would be happy to make the introduction because she's very interested in collaborating with India. She came out to Bangalore last year now, and would really like to do some things with India. So please reach out.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Eric. And if we have any further questions, there's his representative Vikram, who is based in the Hyderabad office in where's this? ITC Kakati, I think, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Okay.
they can always reach out. Eric,
Thank you.
If I can just have you here for a minute. I'm going to request Sanjana Shah, Executive Director of BNI Hyderabad, to come up and please present a memento to Eric for the wonderful session. Thank you, Eric.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Round of applause for Eric.
Thank you.